I consider myself a morning person. But when, the 10-year-old is blowing past you in the 10K at 6 in the morning, you're just like,
yeah, just like what a cool experience, right? The fact that it's like, how do you want to participate? You've got so many options.
He did it when we did our Royal Caribbean cruise. Then he didn't even go on that cruise.
I want you to drop me off as close as what you can to the start, and I want you to pick me up as close as you can to the finish. I don't want to walk all the way to your car.
I can't swear on the podcast. You're amazing. I was gonna say, bad, but
I'm all in. Oh, Noddea's all in too, just like you two. Welcome to Goofy Getaways with your hosts, Amy Blades and Amy Fisher.
Welcome to the Goofy Getaways podcast. We are so excited that you are here, and we're excited to share some really, really fun stuff with you today. I'm Amy Blades, CEO of Goofy Getaways.
And I am Amy Fisher, and we are going to be talking to you today about one of my favorite topics, RunDisney. But in order to have this conversation with you, we needed to bring in one of our amazing special guests. So, special guest, please introduce yourself to our listeners.
Hey, my name is Noddea Skidmore, and I am the Goofy Getaways Director of Marketing. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a brand new RunDisney enthusiast and fan. And wait, can we say brand new at this point, Amy Fisher?
No, because you've done multiple race weekends. You are no longer a newbie.
I'm all in. Oh, Noddea's all in too, just like you two.
Yes, you get to give us an all in. Yeah, I think my favorite part of this is when Amy came on to Goofy Getaways, and she really was one of the only people that we had that was interested in RunDisney, in the way that she's kind of like transformed. And I've seen different people, and it's actually kind of fun. So my favorite part, Noddea, and I'll let you talk about it, but it's so funny when Noddea's like, I'm trading in my bedazzled jewel, instead of costuming, I'm turning them in for medals, or you say it much better than I do, but it's always my favorite. But you do run with a tiara, so you can still be glittering, glamorous.
I do run with a tiara. So far, anyway, we'll see if I end up going back on that promise that Amy Fisher was like, why would you not? So
I mean, I missed the boat because I had done too many races without one, so it felt weird to start it up. So
you got me going from the very beginning, where you're like, listen, you got to go in strong with your thing. What's going to be your RunDisney thing? But I suppose before we start talking about what is your RunDisney thing, we should probably talk about what is RunDisney. So Amy Fisher, would you like to give us the condensed version of this is what RunDisney is?
So, for people who are brand new to this, or maybe even some people that think that they know and they don't really know, RunDisney is an event that is held by the Disney parks. They officially do races at Walt Disney World and Disneyland. We'll get into some more of the details of those later on. But RunDisney is an event. They do distances from 5Ks to diaper dashes for younger kids, all the way up to full marathons. Lots of different race distances that happen all throughout the year. They even do some virtual races. But the whole idea is every mile is magic. And so we're trying to get people to get up, to get moving, to enjoy the magic of Disney, and to enjoy moving their body. So that's what RunDisney really is in a really brief overview.
Right, absolutely. And so one of the things that I really loved that you taught me about RunDisney is that RunDisney is for everyone. And you taught me from the get-go to say RunDisney athletes versus just RunDisney runners, because so many people with different kinds of abilities participate in RunDisney, right?
Yes. And what's so cool about RunDisney experience is you're going to have people who are, full out running, and they might legit be an elite level athlete. And then you also have people who it's their very first race experience. They might do a walk run. They might fully walk all of it. We also have our athletes with disabilities who maybe even doing Roll Disney, who come in these amazing chairs. And those athletes just are so inspiring. And it's such a cool opportunity to come together with all different walks of life, all different body shapes, sizes, abilities, to come and just enjoy Disney and enjoy moving in the way that works for you. And I love that about RunDisney.
It's the community, don't you think? I think it's the community of runners, because I'm one that will do RunDisney events, but I am a walker. I'm not a runner. And I remember that was one of the things that I used to say to you, Amy. I'm like, I just don't really, I'm just going to walk the whole thing. And you're like, yeah, because you're still getting out there and exercising. You're still an athlete. So the community and the way that they embrace everybody is probably one of my favorite things.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think too that, I'm great friends with both Amy's and with a bunch of our other agents who have like this love for Run Disney and on all different levels of commitment, right? Like sometimes it's just like this is a fun thing that I do once in a while. I don't do it every single year. And then we've got some diehards, like, I mean, who's talking? Like Amy Fisher. But what I really love is the fact that Run Disney is for everyone. Um, I am the gal who would be like, I'm sick, like during gym class growing up, right? Like I'd rather die than run, like absolutely not. And I even remember it wasn't that long ago. It was like 2 summers ago, and we had our Goofy Getaways Summit, which is for those of you that are like, what summit? It's kind of like um, it's our biannual convention and like summit of knowledge and leadership for the entire Goofy Getaways agency. And what's great about all of us getting together for things like summit and other leadership opportunities is that we kind of get to tag on a little before after fun time together. And so a group of us were all in the pool at Amy Fisher's parents' house, and everyone's talking about this is what we're doing for marathon weekend. And I was like, I would never, but I kind of want to because magic and friendship and costumes. And also, like, I am a person who grew up being a very competitive person, but not in sport, right? Like, I was a cheerleader, but not a competitive cheerleader. And I grew up around all these people that were really great competitive athletes. And so my area of competition growing up and all through like my early adult life is I was a pageant gal, right? Because that was an opportunity for me to connect with people, speak about things that I was really passionate about, perform, right? Like engage in community service and just have this really great community type of experience.
Mhm.
And in a lot of ways, that's what Run Disney is, right? Like you're only competing with yourself. But at the same time, what's awesome is everybody wins. Because as you can see behind Amy Fisher, medals, right? So that's just like a little magical part of Run Disney. And so the other really cool thing that I love about Run Disney is the fact that it's like maybe you aren't ready to completely take the plunge and go do an in-person race at Walt Disney World or at Disneyland. And there are virtual races. And in like during the pandemic and a little while post pandemic, they would offer a virtual version of the in-person race. And so that was what my first race was. My very first Run
Yeah,
Disney race, I ran on a Royal Caribbean cruise ship that we were all
I
on for
remember.
a Goofy Getaways excursion. And then that kind of like led us right into going to wine and dine race weekend in the fall. And I went and kind of observed, like I got to watch and like hug my friends, right? Like along the route. And that was so cool. But now you have kind of some seasonal opportunities for virtual Run Disney. There's a holiday race, there is a Valentine like love themed race this year for February, and then also a summertime series as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I'm sure we'll get to talking in a little bit about the idea of like recruit your friends, right? Like
Can I
build a
say,
Disney
I
community.
this is my favorite thing. Amy and I, we were on that cruise. Amy and I were in the solarium area, kind of sitting and just really, and I'm like, where's Noddea, right? Because usually we're together. And she says, oh, she's running. I said, she's what? Like, yeah, remember she's got her. And I'm like, man, that is commitment. And if any community could embrace Noddea, Noddea could, that was just awesome. I love it.
It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool indeed. So let's talk about the 4 different Walt Disney World Run Disney race weekends that you can do in person, because I believe that between the 3 of us, all 3 of us have done at least one of
one of
those
them.
weekends, right? That we can talk about. So the season kicks off with Wine and Dine weekend,
Yeah.
which goes right up. I don't want to say against, but complements the Food and Wine Festival at Epcot, which is really cool. And so
Yeah.
that race traditionally takes place the first weekend of November, and for 2025 is going to be towards the very end of October, just before
Mhm.
Halloween. And then there's Marathon Weekend. That's the big one. That's for the diehards and the Dopey Challenge folks, where they run all 4 races: 5K,
Oof.
10K, half
Mm,
marathon, and full marathon.
mm-mm.
Um,
But you get 6 medals. You get 6 medals.
6
you get the
medals.
Goofy Challenge and the Dopey Challenge, and you run over 48 miles.
And that is always the same time, right? Like that's always that second weekend in January, typically.
It depends on how January falls. It's usually either
Yeah.
like the first or second weekend in
But we
January.
always
Yep.
know like to keep those open if you're wanting like that's the start of the new year. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then in February, we have Princess Weekend, which I think is
Yeah.
going to always be a little near and dear to my heart, because it was my first
First.
in-person race that I got to run alongside Amy and her bestie Rachel, who I have adopted as one of my dear friends as well. Because listen, Run Disney and Goofy Getaways community, like we all interchange and become each other's people, and I love it.
Yeah.
And then finally, something that I did this past spring all by myself was Springtime Surprise. And I have heard all kinds of like yay and nay about Springtime Surprise, because it can get really, really hot, right? And even like the race distances are a little bit shorter. Like the big race that weekend is a 10 miler versus a half marathon, largely in part because of the increasing temperatures at Walt Disney World around that time. But I went and I loved it. I did the 5K, and then I volunteered. I handed out medals at the 10 miler,
Mhm.
and that was an epic experience. So cool.
I want to talk about that for a minute because Noddea is not ever one to toot her own horn. So my family actually happened to be in town, kind of overlapping, kind of as she was kind of leaving, we were coming in. So she had her race day and she did everything on her own, which to me is a huge thing anyway, because I do think that the races are fun, but my very first Run Disney event also was by myself, and it was a little bit daunting. Like the community is very kind, so that helped, but it's kind of nerve wracking. And I was so proud of her for doing it anyway. But we happened to have her meet us for dinner that night later. And it may sound silly, but it's kind of everyone is finding through the podcast who I am too, but not, it was emotional also. And I think I was emotional when I saw her. And I think for her too, because she did everything on her own. And then at the completion, seeing somebody that loves her, that she like, I think it felt like, oh my, I really did this and I did it on my own. But it was really, really fun. I enjoyed that. And I being able to end kind of with us to sing your, I can't swear on the podcast. You're amazing. I was to say, bad, what, but like you're awesome was really, really kind of cool and special for us to be able to be there, because watching you condition yourself, change the way that you do some day-to-day things, making yourself, just watching it all kind of unfold is, my favorite thing too is the TikTok video that you have about the are you a dance mom? You're like, no, I'm a Run Disney runner. Just watching you transform, but still stay true to who Noddea is probably one of my favorite things to
Thank
watch.
you. Thank
Mhm.
you. I love that. It's really special. Like, somebody asked me the other day, they're like, what was like the pivotal moment of the beginning of your 2024 that kind of set the intention for like the feel good launch like into this year? And I was like, oh, like that's both like a really in-depth question, but at the same time, my very like easy answer was that on FaceTime, I will not cry. I got to watch Amy Fisher and our one of our best friends, Melissa, cross the finish line for Dopey. Because our other friends, Kat and Rachel, were cheering at the finish line, and like I got to watch that from here, right? I have never slept worse during a race weekend that I have not participated in personally,
But you
because
were part of it, even though you were
well,
at mission.
yeah, well, and Amy Fisher and I are the friends that share location with each other, and so like I get to watch Amy run
Yes.
around World Showcase. And like there was a moment, I can't remember, I think it was during the half marathon maybe. And I just woke up out of a dead sleep because something in me was like, something important is happening right now. And I was like, okay, it's half marathon weekend. And I opened up and like, this is early, my friends, very, very early. And I am not a morning person. And I looked and it was right as Amy was running down Main Street towards the castle. And like I just woke up out of a dead sleep and I was like, something important is happening right now. And that's, and
And it
that's what it
was.
is. So a lot of people ask too, like, where do you get to run like during Run Disney? Like, do you run like through the resorts? Do you run through the parks? How does it work? Are the parks open? So let's kind of talk about that just to give people an idea before we talk about like this is how you get involved, to give people a visual or an idea of um what does it look like when you're there, right? Like where are you running? Because I can only here's what I learned. I learned this from Amy Blade's husband. I learned this from Chuck. I am never allowed to say, and neither is anyone else who is listening or watching, that you only ran the 5K. You ran the 5K, you walked the 5K, you did the 5K, you ran walked, whatever it is. But never only, because every single race, it has its own merit and has its own worth and its own joy. But with the 5K, you run through Epcot long before the park opens. The sun has not even risen yet. But I I really think that it's a cool thing to kind of to think about, like where do you get to run? So tell us a little bit about like what else happens? Where do you go?
Okay, so we need to be very transparent with people because I think a lot of times people automatically think like, Run Disney, I'm only going to be in the parks while I'm doing my race. And we need to be very transparent with you. Maybe a third of the race takes place inside of any of the parks. Every race distance will go through at least one of the Disney parks, whether you're at Walt Disney World. By the way, there's also races at Disneyland. We'll cover that another day, another episode.
Yeah.
But you'll always go through some of the parks. However, it's like, for example, the 5K, less than a mile of the 5K is typically in Epcot. You do quite often, the race routes will change a little bit, but like, for example, 5K in Epcot will take you around to the World Showcase. So again, like just under a mile that you're in Epcot for that race, but that means the other 2.2 whatever miles that you're running, walking, whatever,
are on the road.
Like you're behind the parks sometimes. Like when you do the full marathon for like marathon weekend, you get to go to all 4 parks, but you have to bear in mind Walt Disney World itself is the size of the city of San Francisco. Okay, so you are literally running all around the property in order to get to each of the parks. So yes, you spend a mile in Magic Kingdom running through the castle and around. However, then you get to run 8 miles from Magic Kingdom over to Animal Kingdom. So
but let's talk about, there are characters, there are mile
Yes.
markers. I mean, it does help. It does help. So there are definitely things to entice you, but it's a great point, because listening to my 3 boys that I talk about on the podcast, but listening to them when they talk about the longer races, and now when we're at Disney World and we're driving, they'll be like, yeah, this is that step that you have to go this far, and like they remember the points where it's these long, it's not always like running around the castle or running around the Tree of Life, right? You get to see those things, but it's not the entire race. So that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up, Amy.
Yeah, but I would also argue that like, listen, you're not going to find a more magical service drive
No,
Just
hundred
saying.
True.
percent, 100%. I
You're
agree.
not going to find a more magical service drive. But I listened to an interview once with some of the show directors of the race, and they strive for some level of entertainment or inspiration about every third of a mile, whether you are running the 5K or whether you're doing the full marathon. And so imagine all of that continual excitement, motivation, energy that happens throughout those races. And it might be an actual character stop, like where you can stop along the route and get in line and, catch your breath a little bit. And, maybe you're going to meet Captain Hook or Marie, my favorite. Friends, I don't know what I will do if I ever see Marie on a race route.
You will. You will at some point in time.
You
She
will.
typically, FYI, very typically is going to be near the France Pavilion in Epcot. So if you are doing a race that takes you through
Yeah.
Epcot,
Keep your eye out.
it's pretty common for her to be there, especially wine and dine weekend and marathon weekend. Fairly common to see Marie there.
I will be beside myself. So anyway, you might see that there's a gospel choir. There are
Yes.
bands,
Cheerleaders.
cheerleaders. Like, it's
Yes.
so fun. And something that is so incredibly special, and I don't know if this kind of affects the two of you emotionally as what it does for me, but in our current state of like post-pandemic times, a lot of our international cast members are back working at Epcot again. And so many cast members will be up cheering at 5:30, 6:30 in the morning, in like their traditional cultural outfits that they wear when they work at the pavilions, waving their country's flags, cheering for you. It's incredible. It is such a cool experience, and they're just cast members all along the route, and then, there's a lot of charity partners as well that team up with Run Disney and that also work, to offer, like, charity bibs and things like that for runners that want to fundraise in order to run, and so many of them are along the routes, and it's so empowering, it's so cool, and it's very, very special. Um
And on that note too, like friends and family can come out and cheer in
Yes,
different
that's important
locations.
to
So
know.
like, like Noddea was mentioning earlier, so Melissa and I in January we ran Dopey, and we had our friends Rachel and Kat with us, and Rachel and Kat they did the 5K and the 10K, which was awesome to be able to do that together. But then for the half marathon and the full marathon, they came out and cheered for us. And not every race will they allow. So if you're not a cast member, you might not be able to like cheer in the parks, but there's always a cheering spot along the finish line, along the start line. So people can come out and cheer. So if you're sitting there and you're like, I don't know if Run Disney is for me, you could come out and cheer and just be part of the community and the
Yes.
environment that way. Like,
And you're going to get hooked. That's
Yeah.
what I want to say is that my husband is a runner, and so are our boys. They're grown men now. And I never was because I didn't think I could do it. And I love when Noddea brought up what Chuck said about don't say that, oh, I'm only doing the 5K. Because for me personally, the 5K is a marathon. That just comes from I had to have back surgery. So for me, like even being able to walk that entire thing. But when you go and you watch and you see the way that people cheer on everybody and you get drawn in that way, that's what made me feel like, man, I think I can do this. And I just that camaraderie of people that you don't even know, I think you go, you watch, and you're gonna get hooked.
Well, and also the people that you are going to meet along the way. So I'm sure that there would be people that are listening or watching that might know me, and they might think that what I'm about to say is a little bit BS. But I am very, I am very much I'm a people person. I am extremely uncomfortable with silence. Um, Uncomfortable silence anyway. In fact, earlier, when the producer of our podcast was doing a little sound check and things and was like, I just needed silence for just a little bit so that I can test this. And I thought, I think this is probably the quietest that Amy and I have ever been in each other's presence. Like truly, like,
Yeah.
but I also feel, because of my personality, that I have a pretty strong responsibility to be the person that connects people. And I don't always love that. Sometimes I want off the hook. Sometimes I want to do
Yeah.
things by myself. I want my own quiet. I want my own space, which was a really good experiment for me to do Springtime Surprise by myself. And I remember thinking, I'm just going to go to Springtime Surprise and I'm just going to just do my thing. I'll say hello to people, like, I'll be kind, like, I'm not out here looking for friends. Well, lies. Because I met one of the most near and dear humans that I could ever imagine through Run Disney. After the Springtime Surprise 5K, it was kind of like, I'm celebrating, but I'm celebrating by myself. So I get my little I did it picture taken, and I get on the bus to take me back to my resort. And I watch this beautiful human get on the bus. We make eye contact, and he goes, "Can I sit with you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And that was like the start of this like beautiful friendship. We got 25 minutes, 30 minutes on a bus together in person. He's someone that I talk to weekly.
Yeah.
It's just like you are going to meet people, you're gonna make connections with people if you allow yourself that opportunity. And it's a really, really special thing. And so when I talk about making connections with people and building relationships, I also
She's
have
literal.
two, yeah, I have two really special girlfriends that I met through doing a promo photo shoot for a brand called Crown Athletics, Meg and Catherine. And it is so great to have Run Disney buddies all over the country, especially because when registration day comes, when it's time to actually sign up for a race, everyone on this podcast today will tell you that it is no joke. It is not exactly Taylor Swift Eras Tour level pressure, but it can feel that way, right? And so I've never done a registration day completely solo. I have always had support via text, via email, and
Yeah.
and we just kind of show up for each other. And in fact, one of the things that was really cool about registering for this upcoming Princess Weekend is I have a client turned friend who I just adore, and she and her dad are doing their first Run Disney thing ever. It just coincidentally, they're going to be um, doing a Disney cruise on the Treasure. If you haven't listened to our podcast episode before this one, all about the Treasure, please do, because Amy Blades got to experience that and get a little preview about that. But
Mhm.
her family is going to be on the Treasure, and they leave on, I think, the day of the half marathon or maybe the 10K. But she was like, "Do you think I could fit in the 5K before we leave?" And I was like, "Yes, let's do it." And so like I helped her on registration day, and yeah, it's quite the process. But
Well, you find
Amy,
yourself planning your life around the dates of
oh,
these events. And,
100%.
my
Y'all, I
Char-
stopped teaching fitness classes on Tuesdays because Run Disney registration always ends up happening on a Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And so I was like, I can't teach on Tuesdays anymore.
Or if we're going to do like trainings, or I think about we're doing the Goofy Getaways Celebrate Love cruise, and we had to pick the date, a lot to do with different people that needed to be there, schedules, and it just so happened that it like coincides with the princess. And Amy, when we talked about the dates, I thought she's my son Charles, who was on our podcast previously. She's like, could you have picked any other? And it was so funny
because he also did this previously.
I'm giving you the dates.
We need to
share.
Okay, so the anger came. This is the second time that Charles did this. Okay, if you can't tell, I am a full in Run Disney person, right? All in, all the races, all the distances. If I'm going, I'm doing all the races. Okay. He did it when we did our Royal Caribbean cruise. Then he didn't even go on that cruise.
Oh yeah,
he
that's
made
a
us all
different
go.
podcast. Heck yeah,
right. He made us all go on this Royal Caribbean cruise, and made me miss the 5K from Wine and Dine. Okay. Well, I mean, Noddea was a good girl and she did the virtual version. Like, I
She
probably
was
should have
running.
done that, but I didn't. Anyway, but now he did it again for Princess Weekend, and I let him know, Charles, you are no longer allowed to
In
make
charge of
choices
picking dates. Yeah. She's like,
for our
your
trips.
mother, I'm getting your mother the calendar, and these are the dates
Like,
that cannot be
you
booked.
all have to get it approved with the Run Disney people, because from here on
Honest.
out,
Yes.
you gotta stop
100%.
messing with our Run Disney races.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's how passionate we are.
Yes, very, very much so. Very, very much so. But there are some different options, right, in terms of how you can register. Um, I would argue that we would say to just register on the day of is the easiest. It's probably not the easiest, but it is the most direct way to
Yes.
guarantee your participation, provided that you can get through and things like that. There is also an option to follow alerts for race openings on platforms like X or Telegram, where they'll say, these are the things that are open right now. But when they say they're open right now, they might be open for 90 seconds, 35
Oh,
seconds,
yeah.
2 minutes. And so they go really, really quickly. But if you're a person that likes to play like the speed game with things, you might be great. That is
This
how
is
I
where,
registered.
but bring up, we need to give Melissa some props, because she, whenever I say to Amy, I'll be like, I didn't think I could do this, but I'd really like to fit in this race. And she'll say, just let Melissa know. And when you have a team of people and kind of this, when you have your people, it's one of those things that she is going to, in that 90 seconds, do everything she can to get it for you. And then she'll send you a message that says, hey, I was able to get you in, because you're right. It's not something that you see as available, and then like an hour later you can go do it.
Right, right. It
Not
is
to interrupt,
instant.
but
No,
it's
no, no.
a
It's
bit, yeah.
very true. It's very true. Yeah. And we definitely have some team members that it's like, ooh, you are a whiz on this. And like, we love it. And it's so,
Yes.
so amazing that you can pull that off.
Yes.
That's how I got into Springtime Surprise, because something that you need to know and be aware of is if you're thinking, oh, well, like, gosh, I'm listening to this episode and Princess Weekend is next month. Maybe I could do that. Maybe you can, but registration would have happened 9 months prior to that race. So traditional registration is already going to be closed. It doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means
Correct.
that your registration method is probably going to be non-traditional. So I got into Springtime Surprise last year because I registered through the Telegram alerts. The other thing you can do, and this is how I registered for Princess Weekend in 2024 and also for the Marathon Weekend 5K, is I did a charity bib. And so what that means is that you go on the Run Disney website, you connect with the available charities that are fundraising and have bibs available in order for you to do that. They'll set the amount of what it is that you have to raise. They'll provide you with a website platform in order to do your fundraising, in order to collect all of your donations securely that go directly to the organization. And then when you've
Yeah.
reached your fundraising goal that they set as the minimum, then they send you the information to link your registration with your Run Disney account. And fun fact, if you're like, do I have to
Okay.
build a new account? I mean, it's great because whenever you're traveling through My Disney Experience, if you have a Disney Plus subscription, Hulu, all those things, it's all going to be your same login and whatnot. But I ran for Give Kids the World Village, which is a partner for organizations like Make-A-Wish. Give Kids the World provides a place for families to stay who are on wish-like trips, Make-A-Wish-like trips to all of the different Orlando theme parks. And what's really special is if you do a charity bib partnership, if you run on a charity bib, there's a really good chance that they're going to provide you with something that's just a little extra special for your fundraising, for your partnership with them. Like for example, I have a friend who is running for children with diabetes in his very first race. And I think that their thing is that they give like a little extra swag as a part of your fundraising. Give Kids the World they invite you to come to Give Kids the World in person for a celebratory dinner after the 5K with everyone who ran the 5K for Give Kids the World. I did not get to go back in February of 2024, but I'm hoping at some point that if I ever do that again, that I'll actually get the opportunity like to go and be a part of that celebration dinner because wow, like can you imagine being able to be present on site because it's rare, right? Like it's not something that like if we just decide let's go check out Give Kids the World, it's not like, doing a monorail crawl or like jumping on the Skyliner and checking out different Walt Disney World resorts. Um that's not something that you can do because Give Kids the World is so secure because of all of the kids that stay there that have very special, health considerations that need to be kept in mind in order for all of their guests. And so the fact that they open the doors for everyone who ran during one of the race weekends, it's so special. And so if you're thinking, I'm a little late in the game, it's definitely 9 months before within the time of my race that I want to do, check out Charity Bibs. It is such a cool thing. And you know what? If you're like, I can't find it, just Google. Just Google. Google's your friend.
I was just going to ask you that, Noddea. I was going to say, if somebody wanted to do that, is it like through Run Disney that you would look, or do you just Google like Run Disney charity? How would you even find that to do?
I would do both. I was able to find it really easily on the Run Disney website when I did it for Princess in 2024. And then I think when my friend was looking for bibs for marathon weekend, he just went to Google or Reddit or things like that and just kind of search because it was really important to both of us that whatever charity we chose, it wasn't about, well, where can I raise the least amount of money just to be able to run. It was like, no, if we're raising money for an organization, it has to be near and dear to our hearts. I'm a former Make-A-Wish volunteer and donor in terms of like funds and time. And so that was just super, super special to me to like choose a charity that resonated with me and that I thought would also resonate with people who would be interested in donating and supporting that endeavor of mine. So, and there are people that fundraise for like all of Dopey, right? And that's a lot, right? Because that is 4 races with 2 challenges, right? Like it's a lot more money to raise, but it's not impossible. And people are really creative about how they choose to fundraise. But yeah, just like what a cool experience, right? The fact that it's like, how do you want to participate? You've got so many options in terms of how you want to make an impact and how you want to have that kind of Run Disney experience. One of the things that we have not talked about yet, friends, and I know that this is an area that we all connect on, is it's not just that it's special because it's at a Disney park, right? Run Disney is so cool in terms of themes and also getting to wear a costume, which is so fun, right? And honestly, that was one of the things that really was like, oh wait, it's a princess themed run. Like I can wear something princess like. I'm in.
Oh, that tiara. Oh, that tiara.
It's happening. So yeah, this is my quote race tiara. That
and the thing is, you fit in. This is the thing though, like you're not a weirdo for doing it. It's so embraced. It's the best part.
Yeah. It is. It's so fun and it's such a cool experience. And I remember listening to an earlier podcast and I heard one of the two of you say, well, we'll get my stylist on at some point to talk about.
This is our stylist.
Meet our stylist. This is Noddea, our official
Noddea
stylist.
is my stylist in every aspect of life. Okay. Like she really is. But it was specifically talking about my stylist. Yeah, that's hilarious.
So funny. Yeah, and for better or worse, sometimes it kind of bites me in the rear a little bit because I'll be like, "Oh, Amy, I saw this thing and I think you would really like it and you might really love this." And then she'll get it and then she'll wear it before me. And I'm like in fact, it's the beautiful the red coat. FYI, beautiful. We got it the same week. Mine still has the tags on it. I haven't worn it yet because Amy beat me to it. So I might have to bust it out really soon.
For Christmas too, because you're in Michigan and I'm in Florida. So this is the time you need to wear it to a holiday party or something. It's my favorite though, getting messages from Noddea about, oh, this would look really cute on you. Or like I'm gonna do a race, right? So I'll be like, oh, what is the theming? What do you think that I should wear? And like within about 5 minutes, I've got like 20 things to pick out with links to where I need to get it.
Always links. So, and people will do like group costumes, right? Which is so fun. Amy, that is something that you
You
all
guys
did
did that. Yeah.
during, well, I mean, you do it for every race, but during Dopey, I feel like you all
No, but
went
they did.
all out. It was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
We did, and Amy and her husband Chuck actually joined us because they did the 5K
Yeah.
with us. And so
That was
we
fun.
did Disney dogs for the 5K.
Yeah.
We like to do fun theme things. So even like Wine and Dine a couple years ago, Rachel, Melissa, and I did the Emperor's New Groove. And so I was Cusco, Melissa was Kronk, and Rachel was Yzma. And we got a lot of compliments on those. And I will say, like, I'm gonna wear a costume as long as it's comfortable to run in type of a
100%.
person, FYI. And I will
100%.
also say, if you are a person that you're like, I don't want to wear a costume, but I kind of want to do Run Disney, you do not have to. Like, don't worry.
No.
You
Yeah.
you will very much still fit in. There's plenty of people that don't. Amy, your boys
Like
don't usually.
like
They'll
I was
wear
just
like a
gonna
themed
say,
T-shirt or something, but
same
that's
with my
about it, right?
husband. That's exactly right. Yeah, but you're
Yeah,
not going to
yeah.
get them in costumes. 100%.
So you 100% don't have to wear a costume, but you can. Some people go like all out. I mean like Disney does have rules and regulations about what you're allowed to wear. I remember my first princess weekend, there were a group of men in full corseted ball gowns running like wigs, all of it. And that was when I was like, I love this. I am 1000% in on Run Disney. But like these dudes were just full on wearing ball gowns, wigs for the different princesses because they were like, well, when else can I be a princess? Like,
right.
Let's go. And that's what's fun about like Run Disney
and
costumes.
Captain Jack Sparrow, right? Isn't he usually always?
He literally looks like Captain Jack.
In the middle of
it's
summer.
incredible. It's incredible. Yeah. Jogging Jack Sparrow, just brilliant. Yes. Absolutely brilliant. And so Amy Fisher, you mentioned seeing these guys dressed in ball gowns, right?
Yeah.
The level of empowerment through some costuming that you see is so special. So a couple of weeks ago, one of like the Run Disney community members was on Wheel of Fortune, right? And so we were all rallying to watch Thomas, who was one of the tutu guys.
Yep. Literally tutu, like y'all think ballerina tutu, that the tutu guys. And it's two amazing people. Love them.
Yeah, for sure. And they are best friends that met at Walt Disney World. They run with one of their wives. Like, it is so much fun to watch them. And Amy Fisher and I were just talking about this really recently, that there was an interview on the morning of one of the races. We believe it was the Princess 5K, because we were like, wait, we both remember that. That lines up for the race that we were both at, where they have a really fantastic cast of Run Disney hosts and announcers, with some very specific roles throughout race weekend. And there is one who's always like, Riley, he is the man like on the ground with all of the runners, connecting with people, telling really inspirational stories, and connecting with the people who we just love to see, right, that have become like the Run Disney regulars. And so he was talking to the tutu guys, and I can't remember if Riley said, like, how did this all start? Or like, how did we get here? And like with this being a thing. And also, let's just very respectfully say, the tutu guys, we love seeing in their tutus. They physically are very, very beautiful humans. And the question was, what like, how did it all start? How did you get here in terms of doing this? And so they were talking about how like they thought it would be cute or like charming and funny. And then it kind of turned into, but if any little kid out there can see me doing this, wearing this, expressing myself this way, I want for them to know you can be whoever you want to be, wherever you want to be. It's okay for you to express yourself in a way where you find joy and you feel like your best self. And I feel like between the Tutu guys, DW, there's so many really great Run Disney runners out there who um, are just really inspiring, especially young people, just to live
Yes.
their best lives and to be unapologetically
Who
themselves
you are.
and to take
Yeah.
risks, right? And it's
Yes.
so beautiful. It makes me so happy. So,
I
so
agree.
happy.
Yes. And that's one of those, again, beautiful things about the Run Disney community, right? Is that everyone is welcome and you are
Mm-hmm.
welcome to be 100% who you are. And again, we encourage you, like, go look up the Tutu guys and DW on like social media platforms. They are so inspiring to anybody who wants to get involved in these types of communities. But a little word of like heads up so that we can help create the picture for you as well. The Tutu guys, Thomas, who was on the Wheel of Fortune, for example, Thomas is also a bodybuilder. And then he runs shirtless in a tutu. So, like, there's your picture for you in case you're like
Okay.
wondering what this is. But literally the kindest humans in the world. And again, like, they want to create this space. And I feel like that's the majority of the Run Disney community. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to say that, like, yes, there might be moments where, right, you might run into somebody who's not the
Yep.
most friendly.
Yep.
Sometimes that's just because we've all gotten up at 2 a.m. to get ready and go run these
Fair.
races. Because word of warning, these races start at 5 or earlier in the morning.
Oh, right. Start. So
So
meaning you're getting up at 2.
you get up at like 2. So sometimes people are, not the most friendly in the morning. And I think that is more than anything else, like some of that frustration piece of it. But in general, like the majority of people at Run Disney are so kind, so welcoming, so encouraging to each other. And that's what creates this sense of like, I want to be a part of it. Like I want,
Mm-hmm.
and like for me, I originally told my best friend Rachel, I was like, one and done, please come do Princess with me. It's a bucket list. And I hadn't even left Princess Weekend and I was already signed up for the next race.
For the next one.
Because of the way that community exists. And now I can't stop. And I keep wanting more and more people to come with, right? Like, I'm like, Amy, come do the 5K. Like, Noddea, let's go. Like, you just can't help but invite people when
Yeah.
you're part of such a welcoming community that you're like, I want to go, but I don't want this exclusive for me. Like, I want everybody to be
Experience
a
it.
part of this. And
And I don't think you
feel
can
it.
explain it until, especially if you're someone that, like one of your first times, like I would go, one of my favorite things, my husband's done an Ironman, he's run marathons. And so I love that community and I love watching him do those things. So then for me to think, okay, you know what? I want to get like healthier. I want to run. And it is kind of daunting when you do it for the first time, but there's just this feeling of when you get on the bus and then it takes you to, the starting point and you've got that music and you've got characters and you have people and you have picture stations. And like for me, I did the 5K. So like the Epcot, the ball is lit up and it's just like that. I can, like right now I can put myself there and I can feel it because I just remember what that felt like. And to me, that's kind of what keeps me going back for more, for sure. My weight is something that I have struggled with since we had our third son. And it's kind of been a journey for me. And I thought, man, Amy and I had this conversation. I was like, there's just no way that I'm not fast enough. Like they're probably going to sweep me. And Amy's like, look, I promise you the 5K, they're not going to sweep you. Just do it. And I actually did, better than I thought that I would. And in a couple weeks here, my son, my middle son is going to do the 5K with me. And we kind of have a plan um, to get through the race kind of we really do have a time. It's going to be fun, but for me it's that competitive side that you were talking about, Noddea, too. But I'm in competition with myself. So I'm really excited just because I've been working for since last year to get ready for it. Not like I'm planning on winning the 5K by any stretch, but even taking a minute or two off of your time and just the people that encourage you, even if you're walking, and the encouragement of someone even stopping to walk with you or saying, come on, you've got this, like, come on, pick it, we're almost there. I think that sometimes is one of my favorite things too, especially kind of like within my weight loss journey. Seeing, people of all sizes is something that really kind of turned me on to the Disney races because you really can be as large or as small. And it always just makes me feel almost humble and walk and proud of people that I don't even know. Getting out, if they're walking and I'm like, heck yeah, you're walking. Like, good for you. You got out of bed at 2 a.m. and you're gonna, truthfully, that's me. So just that feeling that you can't explain until you've done it. And it is different. It's so exciting for me to go and watch people that I love. But when I did it, that was really exciting. And that's that feeling of making me feel like, oh, wow, man, like I can do this too.
Absolutely. Like one of the things that, you'd mentioned, Amy, about like just like health and body size and like, can I physically do this? I know for a lot of folks that if they're like, you know what, I'm gonna go run a 5K, and maybe they don't have to train the way that you and I do, right? But it's like
Yeah.
I have to train to do a 5K. Like I had an ACL surgery 8 years ago that really knocked me off the trajectory to be able to do a lot of the things that I used to do.
Mhm.
I had an injury over the summer. I had a scope surgery for like a meniscus repair and some knee arthritis and things like that. And so like
You're
to get
still
back
healing
out
from.
here, yes, and I'm still healing from. It's really funny when I go to my nail salon and get my nails done. I feel like a little choo-choo train, right? Like I stand up from anything and I just have to stand there for just a little millisecond before I can move. And then I think, well, it's not really that noticeable. And every time my nail guy is like, "You okay, honey?" Yes, I'm okay. I need a
Trying
second.
to
I
be.
just
Yeah.
need a second. I'm like a little choo-choo train where it's like once I get started, I'm good, but it's a little rough to get there. I will tell you that, I know like I mentioned like pageantry and things like that earlier. So like yeah, I've been on stage in a swimsuit. It was half a lifetime ago, but I've been on stage in a swimsuit. That's not something that I would ever do now. I was someone that did not want to leave my house or be anywhere in public in a sleeveless shirt for years. Like it just, and it wasn't because it looked bad, quote unquote, like, right. I mean, talk about something that's totally subjective. But I wasn't comfortable. That wasn't
That's
me. And Run Disney has helped me feel so confident in my body, in my phase of life, and on my journey. Um, I think about how like I talked earlier about the Crown Athletics photo shoot that I did, right? And very comfortably and happily, like I was the girl that was in the jacket. And I remember, and they were like, let's have you take your zipper down like just a little bit, like let's show off like your sports bra underneath. And I was like, okay. And like my heart raced when I did it. But guess what? 3 months
did it.
later, when I did my first in-person race, I ran in a sports bra and leggings, and I was fine, so proud. And something that I still kind of like hold close to my heart, and like it makes me like a little misty, is the morning of that princess run. I was with Amy Fisher. I was with our friend Rachel, and I had this jacket on actually like over top just because, it was a little chillier that morning. And I mean, when is it not a little chillier at what, 3? And we pulled up and we got out of the car, and I took my jacket off and threw my jacket in the back seat, and Rachel went, "Oh." And there was like this little bit of her being really proud of me, but
Unspoken.
also a little bit of her going, I think maybe I could do that too. And it was a cool moment. And like, it was literally a split second, but there was something really special about that moment where it was like, "Psh, yeah, like I got this."
But I need to know again, I just need to be reassured. Do you believe in life after love?
Noddea Skidmore of the United States.
Don't look. Don't look. You'll get
It is very cool to know that, no matter, not just like your level of health or like your shape or size, but age, right? Like something that also Amy Fisher that you would have witnessed with me was on the morning of that Princess 5K, there was a little girl that was being interviewed. And it was so precious because they said, this is this little girl. Today is her 5th birthday, and you can do the 5K when you're 5. And it was so cute because they asked her, like, how do you feel? Like, how do you feel about being here today with your Run Disney community? And she's like, I'm just so happy that everyone is here for my big day. It was so precious. It was so
And
great. And it was like,
genuine.
yes, yes. And it's kind of like, yeah, we're all here for each other's big day. And that's
That's Run
really
Disney.
incredible. It is. It is Run Disney. And so, I mentioned like you have to be 5 to do the 5K. And there are a couple of other rules about like ages and how old you have to be for certain things. You're gonna find all of that information out on the Run Disney website. I believe you have to be 18 to do the full marathon. Is that correct, Amy?
Yes.
Yeah. I think so.
Yes, I can attest to that. 'Cause we
Okay.
had
Yeah,
to
you
wait
probably
for it.
can
Yeah.
because of the
I was
boy.
like, yeah, and you had to wait till the boys were 18 because they've done it
Yes.
with, have all 3 of them done it with Chuck now?
Yes,
Okay.
all 3. Yep.
That's so cool.
Love it.
Yeah, and like if your kiddos are under 14, like they still have to have an adult with them. But like 2 really easy kind of rules to remember is you got to be 5 to do a 5K and you got to be 10 to do a 10K. And you do see a lot of littles on
You do.
on the course, and that's just it's
Blowing past you while you're
Oh,
running. too.
100%.
also that
100%.
way ahead of the game in some cases.
Yep, 100%.
And you're like, I wish I had that energy at 5 a.m. As, by the way, as a signature morning person, like I consider myself a morning person, but when, the 10-year-old is blowing past you in the 10K at 6 in the morning, you're just like, nope. But mad props to you, child. Mad props to you.
That's really real. So one of the things about obviously being a part of Run Disney that I can't imagine not having this piece is being an on-property resort guest, right? Because Run Disney isn't just, I feel like Run Disney isn't just something that, starts at the expo and ends at the finish line or some sort of after party or celebration, whether it be something structured as a part of the race weekend, because some race weekends have that, or if it's something that is something that you choose, to do or to come up with as a celebration for yourself. I think it's really important to know that when you are on property during a Run Disney weekend, whether you're in the parks, at your resort, it feels like Run Disney weekend. And it is just such a cool experience. And so, that's something that I can't recommend enough.
Can I chime in on that? Because something, as you know, we live in Orlando part of the time, and then of course we're in Michigan part of the time. Even when we are in Orlando where we live, we still always get a hotel reservation when we're going to do a Run Disney event because you want to feel the environment. And it definitely is not a little bit, it's a lot easier for when you're trying to get to your events. So that's actually a really good point, Noddea, that I'm glad you brought up. I think it's something that I encourage for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, like one of the things that ended up being like oh, well, we should try this. And I think there would be value in it turning into well, that was a no-brainer. I'm never doing that without is I also got the dining plan when I went to Princess Weekend, right? Because you hear people talk about like, oh, you want a carb load before your race. And I'm like, well, it's a 5K. I can probably do a 5K without a carb load. But at the same time, if I've got a dining plan, heck yeah, I'm doing a carb load and I'm going to get dessert and I'm going to get this. And then, of course, it makes you feel really good about the idea of like, oh, I can go out for this really great celebratory meal after, right?
Sure.
Like one of the things that I did during Springtime Surprise, and keep in mind, this was the race that I did by myself, right? Let's see if I can tell this story without getting misty because I get a little weepy every time I tell it. But 1900 Park Fair had just reopened at the Grand Floridian. And this is a really wonderful character dining experience. You can go for breakfast or you can go for dinner. And the characters there it just feels extra special. You get Aladdin as Prince Ali, you get Cinderella, you get Tiana in her adventure outfit, and then you get Mirabelle. And a lot of times people will wear their medals either for photos or they'll just keep them on, right? And I had my medal on. I'm dining by myself, and the first character that came over to see me was Mirabelle. And I will tell you this, the cast members that are friends with Mirabelle are some of the most magical humans that you could just ever hope to encounter, because they radiate all of the joy and positivity that the Mirabelle that we know on the film screen emulates, right? And so I get this hug from Mirabelle, and oh no, here it comes. And we both like stand back and like look at each other, and she goes, "I'm so proud of you." To which I go in for another hug, because I know if I don't, otherwise I'm just going to ugly cry face to face with Mirabelle. And I said, "I have to tell you that every time I step on a treadmill, every time I go out for a walk or a run to train for any Run Disney race, and I put on my Run Disney playlist that I made, your voice is the first I hear, because Family Madrigal is my first song on my Run Disney playlist." And
Yeah.
it's like, you've been with me every step, and now I get to celebrate with you. And like, that is just such
And it was unwarranted. Like, her saying that to you was not calculated. It was, yeah, magic.
such a cool experience, and like, I've had people say like, "Oh, does this mean that you'll do like the riverbank run in Grand Rapids, or like maybe you'll do this race?" And I'm like, no. No. I'm
Run
a Run
Disney.
Disney runner. And it's not just because of the exercise and like the challenging yourself, but it's
Oh, no.
you get to do those things and be surrounded by magic the entire time. And that is just so it's exceptional. It's an exceptional experience. And so when the time comes, if you're listening to this podcast, and now all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna look at Run Disney on Instagram. I'm gonna look at Run Disney on, on the Run Disney website, or whatever it is that you choose, however it is that you choose to explore and get a little bit more information. Just know that like, we have so many Goofy Getaways team members who are Run Disney adjacent that can help you plan a really incredible experience, and that can help you along with your journey. And don't let people with a tremendous amount of experience like Amy Fisher think, "Oh, well, they're a different kind of athlete than me. They're a different kind of runner than me." Because they can still meet you where you are at, in terms of your journey, and help guide you for what it is that you need, in order to have a really successful and magical trip. But yeah, so come do Run Disney. Go
Yes. We
go
want to see you on the
out.
course. Yeah.
Yes.
All of it, because it's so magical. Like, and like Nadia said, we recommend that you stay on property for sure. The dining plan, like Nadia talked about this too, but that is one of my favorite ways to celebrate a Run Disney weekend, is to do a character meal. And I try to do a character meal that relates to whatever the race theme weekend is. So when we did Dopey back in January, we went and ate at Artist Point, because you could go meet Dopey and Snow White. And I like to have the characters sign the back of my medal. And then, like, obviously I keep my medals, so that just kind of becomes that extra special momentum thing that you can have too. So like, and you don't have to do that to celebrate. It's just a cool way that I've started to use that, and I recommend it to my clients when they do the same thing. But lean in. We have an amazing team here at Goofy Getaways with lots and lots of experience of different types of Run Disney races and things like that as well. So we all would love to help you find how every mile can be magical. It may not always feel that way every moment, but every mile can be magical.
And especially when you complete it. Yeah.
It's true.
100%.
I have a question for you, that for both of you, that I feel like I don't know that I actually know the answer to. Have either or both of you done Run Disney in Disneyland?
We have talked about this. It is on our calendar. We have not yet, but I really do want to experience that.
Yeah, so I am planning on Run Disney Disneyland Halloween half marathon in September. Half marathon weekend, not me running the actual half marathon. I will do the 5K, maybe the 10, we'll see. But one of my besties from here in my city, she and her spouse, they moved out to California for
Yeah.
work, and they are long time Disney lovers of Disney parks, and she's a former runner and has mentioned how badly she would love to get back into the swing of things. And so it was like, well, maybe we do a little double date trip and you and I do the 5K together.
This is
So
how we do it.
yeah.
Well, good. We'll be excited to follow you on that. Yeah.
So if we don't have anything else to cover, if we don't think that we're missing anything, I am a very big fan of Amy's All In.
Us too.
All right. And when Amy Fisher and I talked about the idea of like, okay, so when you're a podcast guest, these are the things that we're looking for. And I said, okay, but like, do I get to play Amy's All In? And so I said, I want to run Amy's All In. So if the two of you are ready, are you ready?
Ready or not,
We're
here we
ready.
go.
So Amy's All In is a multiple choice journey to get us to the final Amy's All In answer. Okay. So we're going to play a miniature game of this or that.
Okay.
You can't think about it for too long, and you can only give what the answer is. You can't add context as to why yet. Okay. Ready?
Ooh, okay.
So I already know the answer to this, but it requires me to ask. Okay.
So everyone else then
Are we
knows.
okay? Are we answering individually then? Is what
Yeah.
you're wanting us to do?
Boom,
Okay.
rapid fire, one after the other.
Yeah.
Whoever is ready first can go.
Okay. Yeah.
On property or off property stay?
On property.
Okay. Costume or no costume?
Costume.
Costume.
After race, go back and sleep, or after race, go to the park?
Go back and sleep.
Go to the park.
Okay. Wine and dine weekend or marathon weekend?
Marathon weekend.
Marathon.
Princess weekend or springtime surprise weekend?
Princess.
Springtime surprise.
Amy Blades, are you about to hijack my game plan?
Oh no! I don't even know what
Please
your game
do.
plan is.
Welcome to the podcast, Noddea.
Wait, no, I love it. Okay.
Amy, you love me. You know.
I do.
Marathon weekend or springtime surprise?
Marathon.
Marathon weekend or princess?
Princess.
Marathon.
Amy Blades. Amy Fisher, you're killing me here.
That's where it all started for me. Marathon weekend is like the
See, and Princess was my first. So here
That's
we go
probably
explaining
why.
it. But
So here's what we have. The ultimate Amy's All In is yes to Run Disney, 4 on property, wear a costume, rest and park, and marathon weekend and princess is what I would say this group.
But Noddea, I need to know your answers to them as so
Yeah,
I know
100%.
I know you're on property, but like, okay, now you need to tell us. Okay.
And I'm going to follow my own rules. Costume or no costume? Costume. Park or sleep? Park. Wine and dine or marathon? I'm going to say marathon because I'm about to do it for the first time. Princess or springtime? I'm going to go springtime, I think. So, yeah. Do you have some very specific whys on the things that you chose?
Staying on property for convenience. Costume because it makes me feel even more a part of. It makes me excited for what I'm doing, what I'm training for. Marathon because that was the first race that our family ever did, but then that I ever did too. Is that all of them?
Yeah, I think so. Well, and then you said sleep.
Oh, well, okay, let's talk about that because if everyone knows my husband, like, no. So if it's my race, I don't have to go back and sleep for a long time, but I am also not a morning person. So getting up like at 2 and doing that race is a ton. So I like to just go back and rest for even an hour or two. Then I'll go to the parks for sure.
Sure. Speaking of that, I guess in a way I could say like both rest and park. After the Princess 5K, I came back to our room, my husband Kalen was with us. It was really great. And Amy and Rachel were also there. We were at the same resort. We just had different rooms. And we kind of did like a split trip where it was like, here's both of our passions, right? Like where we did Run Disney weekend, and Walt Disney World property, parks, all the things. And also it was the Tigers spring training in Lakeland opening weekend. And so we did every other day, park baseball. And then we would come back from baseball and go have like just the most amazing meals on our dining plan. It was such a blast. But when I got back from the 5K, I absolutely took a Epsom salt bath and ate a cupcake in the bathtub. And
Yes, you did.
then, yeah, I did. And then after that, we got gussied up and went to the parks for a celebratory like breakfast. Yeah, it was so great. And one of the things that I'm going to say about springtime is two little aspects of like add-on events at springtime that I love so much. Hollywood Studios is my favorite park. I know that that is not always the most popular opinion to everyone else. I say respectfully and lovingly, I think you're wrong. It's okay. But I love it so much. And that is where yoga is during Springtime Surprise Weekend. It's also where yoga is for Princess Weekend this year. It was an incredible experience. It's called sunrise yoga, but it actually is way before sunrise yoga. But just the greatest way to set the intentions for the weekend and also get my body ready for the weekend. Also love that at Springtime Surprise yoga is before you race. So it also gave me one extra morning of getting up that early before race day. Because let's face it, even if I say, well, I can train to do that, I'm going to not. And then last year for 2024, they did something so cool for the very first time. It was called the Springtime Splash Party. It was at Typhoon Lagoon. It was epic. And let me tell you, I have never felt such sweet relief and like zen in my body than standing barefoot in sand with like water rushing over my feet and like the lower part of my legs after running. Oh my gosh, bliss, right? And just such a great way to celebrate like this after hours nighttime party with like a DJ and all the characters and all of the water rides open for all of the runners. It was epic. It was just fantastic and just one of my favorite things I have ever done on Disney property ever. I totally loved it. It was really great.
I love that.
See, my issue with Springtime Surprise is Wine and Dine Weekend, they do an after hours event. And if you run the half marathon or do the challenge, the after hours event is included for you. So it makes me annoyed at Springtime Surprise that it's an additional cost for everyone to do the splash party. I feel like that should be included with the challenge, is my personal opinion. I haven't even done it, but I'm like, I feel like that should be included. That one just kind of, I'm like, so that rubs me the wrong way. I also think it's way too hot and humid at Springtime Surprise, which is why I'm surprised that's why I'm surprised both of you like that. I'm going to tell you, I go to the water park on all the other weekends because typically Run Disney also does discounted water park tickets for runners on all the race weekends. So like, and if you're going in 2025 on arrival day at your Walt Disney World Resort, you're also going to get a free water park day. So like, I mean, like you get plenty of water park time. Like, I don't know, but Springtime Surprise is too hot and humid, which is funny because I'm the one that always complains how cold it is during like other
complain about how hot it is.
Other things. So that's my biggest issue with Springtime Surprise. I love Marathon Weekend and I love Princess Weekend. Princess was my first, so that's kind of why I picked that. And if people who have followed my Run Disney journey are already aware, I always stay on property, but I also rent a car. So a lot of times people are like, oh, you stay on property and just take the buses, which is very convenient, especially if it's your first time, etc. But I'm a control freak. Shocker. And
this is
so
news to us, Amy.
Such startling information. And so even if you're driving, I like the extra 20 minutes of sleeping by staying on property. And two, it's so much easier to get around because Disney is going to have signs everywhere once you're on property of like what roads are closed, all that kind of stuff. So it's just easier, in my opinion, to get around than if you're coming in off of property. But
here's what's very funny. I intentionally did not put drive yourself or use Disney transportation as one of the ultimate questions to get to Amy's all in, because I knew that we could potentially do a whole podcast episode
About
on
that.
whether or not you.
Because she and I have totally different opinions on that. But if I'm riding with her, I'm all in. If I have to do that navigating, I hate it.
Here's the thing. I'm aware of how very princess this sounds, but if somebody's driving me, I want you to drop me off as close as what you can to the start, and I want you to pick me up as close as you can to the finish. I don't want to walk all the way to your car.
Heck yes.
That's fair.
Agree.
The buses are definitely closer than parking for sure.
Full respect. And like I definitely like made some of those relationships and like started some of those friendships with people that I met on the bus. So it has like a little bit of like a heart part for me. But I also, for my very first race, there was something about being in the car with you and Rachel. And in fact, there was a really hilarious miscommunication when, I don't know if you remember this, Amy Fisher. This is so small, but I would say this. I would say that Amy Fisher is an external control freak. I am an internal control freak where I know how things work very specifically in my mind. And so I asked, when we leave, what does that look like? How much time do we have? And there was a moment where Amy said, I think we'll probably be in the car for about 20 minutes. And I thought she meant we'll get there and then sit in the car for 20 minutes. And so I was like, great. I'm looking for, like, I thought we were getting there so early that it was like, well, they're not even going to let you in anywhere. So like, we're just going to sit and then be like amongst the first. And so all of a sudden we pull up and Amy and Rachel.
Amy's out.
And Amy's all
I have 20 minutes.
I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I'm gonna need a little second. I'm just gonna need a little second. And that was hilarious. Something else just to be prepared for, and I'm so glad that I was, because if I was not, I'd be like, what? Is you walk a 5K before you get to the 5K.
100%.
Yeah.
It's actually way better than it used to be. So now that the start finish line is at Epcot for every race distance, you park at the parking lot and get in, like, right, or you take the buses and walk in. It's way better than it used to be, because back when like some of the races would start over at the Ticket and Transportation Center and you would park, and then it was like a 1.5 mile walk to the different corral. It was crazy. It was like, I miss some of those courses, but I don't miss that walk. So it is a long walk still, but it's better than what it used to be.
That's really fair. And then one more thing that I definitely want to know from the both of you is, what is your most favorite character or entertainment interaction that you've experienced, either at the start or finish line or on the actual race course? Was there anything where it's like, oh my gosh, I got to meet this character and it was super rare, or oh, I got this picture and it was so great?
So for me, sometimes the length of lines to get to the characters are long, which I'm not complaining about. But when you're someone that is not like a runner and you, like I have in my mind, this is what I need to do, this is where I need to go, I know that if I stop, then trying to get myself like back on court, like I can't keep stopping. So for me, it's the after, getting the characters after. But honestly, when you go through Epcot and they do have like the big band and then they have like the cheerleaders, that to me is more fun, because I love characters, but to me that like exemplifies Run Disney. So for me, it's that feeling of, come on. And it's like they're usually located at a spot where I'm like, okay, remind me again why I said I was going to do this. So it really helps kind of get me through. What about you, Amy? Because you're pretty good at getting character pictures.
Sometimes, yeah, like, yeah.
Before, maybe more than after.
So, yeah, I don't know that there's like, there've definitely been some cool characters that I've seen out, and like, I remember one of my first princess races, they had 4 princes all together for a character photo, which was really cool. So that's the other cool thing about like some Run Disney races, is that it's like, it's not just, you can go into the park and you'll be like, oh, there's Belle, or, you know, there's Tiana. It's like, they'll actually put Belle and Beast together for a character photo for Run Disney and some of those kinds of things. So I've always enjoyed those where it's like, I can't meet this character in the parks. And so those ones are really unique. But I think my actual like favorite interaction that I've ever had was before my first Dopey for the 5K. Was it my first? I think it was my first Dopey. I dressed as Snow White for the 5K. And before the race starts, they're going to have, at the start finish line, there are always some characters out to meet. And you can do character photos before, or you can do them after. I get there very early. And so I like to do a character photo, usually just one, before I go get in my corral. And for that 5K, I was dressed as Snow White, and I went and met Dopey, and Dopey like spun me around. And I just remember like I was very nervous because it was like, oh my gosh, can I actually run basically 50 miles over the next couple of days?
Right.
And I just remember being like, oh, like this was just like a really cute, special moment that I really enjoyed. So, and then I wanted to die at the end, but we made it.
Like, why did I say I was going to do
And
this?
then I keep signing up and doing it again. So,
I do think it's good to note that the characters that they do bring out, there are some that you do see at the parks, but one of the things that they try to do is bring out characters that you would not normally see.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like for Springtime Surprise, it was really neat. When I got on the bus, I ended up connecting with a woman also from the Midwest who's also a travel agent, not with Goofy Getaways. It was her very first run. Her husband was also a runner. It was something that she just really wanted to do. She had a young son and was like, this feels like a thing that I can try to do. And so it was great. I all of a sudden became like the Run Disney Yoda, like for this new friend, the way that, Amy Fisher and Melissa are for me. And I said, well, what my friend Amy does is when she arrives, she chooses one character before she gets in her corral. And I said, so why don't we do that today? And she's like, okay, well, like, where do you want to go? And the 5K theme was like a Neverland, like Tinkerbell theme. And so sometimes your characters are going to coincide with what the theme is. And then sometimes you're going to get something totally random that is a really great surprise. And she was like, oh, it's Duffy. It's Duffy the bear, which is a really
who is not typically
not typical at all. And it is very, very popular in the international Disney parks. And she's like, oh, I would love to meet Duffy. And she just kind of looked at me like, but that's probably not at the top of your list. And I was like, let's do it. And her face was just so like filled with delight. And I was like, yeah, let's go do it. Like I'm totally open. And that was something that was really neat. And also you're going to see these lines and think there's no way that that's not so long, right? There's no way that that's going to move. They move much faster than what they move, I think, in the parks, for example.
That's good for me to know for when I do the 5K in a couple weeks.
Correct. Because remember, they're not doing autographs, right? It is literally, you're going to get a photo and roll, photo, roll, photo, roll. And again, like, especially at Run Disney events, you have a lot of new people, but at the same time, you also have the majority of people have done multiple Run Disney events. We kind of know the system. And so it's like you pass off your phone, cheese. And like, it's like a 10-second, 15-second interaction. And it can still be super magical, but like it goes very, very quickly.
Like I remember looking at those lines and thinking, oh my gosh, these are so long. And I had, I mentioned earlier on the podcast today, my client who's doing Princess, right? Her very first Run Disney weekend. And she had asked a question about timing. And I said, honestly, I can look through my phone. I will pull the play-by-play for the entire morning from the time that I wake up until the time that I finish. Like I can let you know what time I was at mile 1, what time I was at mile 2, what time I got to the corrals, what time I like stood in line for character photos. And I have we just got off the bus photo. And then I have here I am with Duffy photo. And there was like, well, maybe not just off the bus, but like just got to like the general like race start area. And it was like a 9-minute time difference between me getting in that line and having that photo taken. It was so fast. It was so fast. It felt like, oh, this line is going to take forever.
But it did.
It cruises. It cruises right along. So
awesome. Well, I think that's good for me. That's good for me to remember for our
do it. At least stop and do one. And I know like when Amy and Rachel and I ran the Princess 5K, the one character we stopped for was Goofy. And I'm so glad we did, because it's such a cute photo. And I stopped 3 times for springtime because I thought, well, what do I have to lose? I'm here by myself.
You're right.
I'm only responsible for myself in this journey.
Yeah.
And I stopped for Daisy. I stopped for Captain Hook. And then sometimes there will just be photo pass stops, right? So like the photo pass photographer was out in front of Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. And I was like, I love this attraction. Why would I not stop here and get this photo like as the sun is about to rise?
Bonus all in, please make sure you get Memory Maker when you do a Run Disney race weekend at Walt Disney World, because you can enter your bib number. We can talk about that more. And don't worry, we will have more podcasts, obviously, about Run Disney and more like tips and tricks and all that kind of stuff. But oh my gosh, like that's my other all in for every Run Disney race weekend is make sure you have Memory Maker, because those photos, like some of them are very entertaining, and you can see because you don't always know where the photographer
no, you don't.
is.
No,
but
you don't.
Like I have some, we call it PhotoPass fail, and it's not that the PhotoPass photographer failed; it is that you failed to notice that they are there, and you get some very lovely memories because you're like that's really how I felt in that moment. Yep.
Okay, well, I think that we kind of like ran way over today, so you can obviously tell that we are all in on Run Disney, and I think it would be awesome to do. We should follow up on another podcast for sure with Run Disney. So we really want to, obviously, Noddea, thank you for taking the time to come and talk to us about something that you're passionate about. It's exciting for me to be able to showcase. I love showcasing our travel consultants, but obviously Noddea is the face behind our marketing too, so that's fun to have her on here. As always, we at Goofy Getaways want to book your trip, and we want to help you, whether it's a Run Disney event or it's just a family vacation. So remember that our services are complimentary. That's always really important. We have travel consultants that we can like match you with, or if you want to go on our website, www.goofygetaways.com, you can take a peek and read the bios and see if there's somebody that you think that you'd like to work with. Of course, you can call the agency at 269-303-8143. Check out our Facebook page, Instagram page, and obviously the podcast. Like and share the podcast. We're having a lot of fun. Feel like we're kind of getting our groove. Now we have had some guests, so I think that that's a lot of fun. So we just want to say thank you for taking time to listen today. Any final thoughts before we close out, Amy?
Yeah, so again, as Amy said, please save, like, share this podcast. We want to hear from you, so comment and let us know what Run Disney race are you most interested in, or if you've done Run Disney, what is your favorite Run Disney race weekend? Like, we want to hear from you, or if there's a topic that you want us to talk about on a future podcast, please let us know. We are intending to talk to you very, very soon about the Walt Disney World water parks, because as we briefly mentioned, this is included with the first day of your arrival. It's part of your like Walt Disney World Resort perks. So we're going to be talking to you about the water parks coming up very, very soon on our next podcast episode. So be sure to stay tuned, like, save, and share. Let us know how we can lead you to the magic to any destination. We want to book you to Walt Disney World, but we can help you with other cruise lines, all-inclusives, and all of those different opportunities. Noddea, thank you so much for being part of the podcast.
Thank you for having me. This was great. And like Amy Blades just said, when one of the things, it's so exciting to watch people come in and talk about their passions, but you need to both know that this has become one of my passions because I've watched it become yours, and you've inspired me just like you do in terms of providing our clients with great travel experiences. So yes, thank you for all of your leadership and your love and your camaraderie, and just the ways that I get to watch you help lead folks to the magic. So thank you.
We try. We really do. But if there's nothing else, then we'll really excited to see you on our next podcast. But for now, we will see ya
real soon.
If you liked today's episode of the Goofy Getaways podcast, please like, share, and subscribe. And remember to follow Goofy Getaways on social media so we can lead you to the magic.